Hello and welcome to Ibby's Digital Nomad Stories, featuring real conversations with professionals who've cracked the code to sustainable nomadic lifestyles. These people aren't beach and Wi Fi chasers, they're building competitive advantages that traditional employment could never match. Global mobility, income diversification, and the freedom to capitalize on opportunities anywhere. I'm Ibi Malik, your favorite digital nomad consultant, and today I'm joined on the show by Yello Balolia, someone who proved that unrealistic optimism isn't a character flaw, it's a superpower. He started a publishing company with no business experience, and his first book was terrible. Most people would have been crushed, but Yellow just thought, how hard can it be? Let's have another go. And now, 15 years later, he's published 12 books, vibe coded an app for $20 a month using AI, and lived on a boat for 4 years while running his business remotely. Other people see hurdles. Yellow doesn't, he just visualizes them away. He's not the traditional digital nomad. His form of nomading was living on a boat and cruising UK canals, but nomadic life isn't just about crossing borders. It's about designing freedom on your own terms. This is a masterclass in natural curiosity. When you ask, how hard could it be? Instead of listing the reasons that it won't work. This is how you figure out paths that don't yet exist. Here's Yellow. Are you a nomad?
Am I a nomad? So I would say that I haven't had a proper home, a proper solid home for about 4 years.
Okay.
I lived on a boat
You lived on a boat.
for 3 or 4 years, and that had a nomadic element to it. So Zoe and I, my partner Zoe and I, we took the boat with us up and down the country. And so although we had a floating home, we weren't in the same place for, month to month a lot of the time. So we had a kind of semi-nomadic lifestyle for that period of time. The other thing is, on a boat, it's in the UK, it's super cold in the wintertime. And we did it for a few winters. And then after that, decided to escape the winters on the boat. And that's when we found some co-livings to go over the winter time.
So you were in co-livings in the winter and in the boat on the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
And you kept this up for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, did that for 3 years.
Interesting. Well, so I was actually having a think before about whether you were a digital nomad. And as part of digital nomad consulting, we like to have a very clear definition of what a nomad is. And our definition is very simple. Are they location independent or not? And I think by that definition, you're a full-on nomad because you are totally location independent.
Yeah.
Right?
I would say yes.
Can the boat go across the sea?
No, it can't go across the sea.
The channel?
No, not across the channel. But, I started in London. I had the city boating experience and then cruised out west onto the River Thames, onto the Wild River, and had the kind of nature countryside boating experience and went all the way up to Oxford. So, traveled quite a far distance. So, yeah, I would say that was location independent.
Nice. Okay. So you're definitely a nomad. How do you make money as a nomad?
So I am the director of a publishing company. I've been doing it for about 15 years. Me and my business partner, he's a dietitian. So we write books for diabetes and weight loss. And we only publish books that we've written ourselves. So we've got about 12 or 13 books now that we've written over the years. And they continue to sell pretty well within the kind of diabetes sector in the UK.
And so your business partner is the dietitian.
Yeah.
So what's your role in the enterprise?
My role is I do the business side. I do the kind of project management side. my business partner's got the expertise in the field, and I'm the one who like puts it together and makes it happen. That's kind of my role. I make it happen.
So do you have like an MBA or something, or how do you know how to make it happen? How do you know how are you the business guy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have an MBA. I didn't do business at university or at A level or at GC. Like at no level have I actually got any business qualifications whatsoever. Started this publishing company without having any business experience, without having any publishing experience, and I just thought, how hard could it be? Let's just give it a go. How hard could it be? You write a book, you design a book, you get them printed. Like, is it really that complicated? And I just thought, let's have a go. And actually, the first edition of the first book that we wrote was absolutely awful. Like, it was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. And, you know, in hindsight, there were loads of like, it didn't look great. And there was just so many things that were really not great about it, but it was out there and it was helping people. People could see the value in it, even though it looked a bit crappy. So, you know, 6 editions later, it looks great now. It's the finished version.
Is it the same book?
Yeah, it's essentially the same. Like, our first one is a visual carbon calorie counter book. And that's still our kind of flagship book that we sell today. So it's the same book, but it looks completely different than it did at the beginning. And so we kind of learned as we went along rather than got loads of experience before setting up the business.
Interesting. Okay, I have so many questions actually, but the one question that comes to mind first is, so you started off by saying, how hard can it be? Right? Let's just do this. So how did the confidence levels go through the last 15 years? Like, you know, at the beginning, was it super high and then it dropped? Or how did the confidence levels go through this period?
I guess I am quite unrealistic in quite a lot of ways. And I think that is almost a necessary quality for an entrepreneur to have, in my view. Like, over optimistic, unrealistic. Like, if people knew how hard it is to do these things, they would never get started if they were really realistic about it.
Yeah.
So I guess my confidence levels were maintained all the way through because I'm not realistic of how long things take and of how much effort it takes and how many decisions need to be made and details go into doing something like this. And even to this day, projects I work on now, I'm still unrealistic about pretty much everything about it. And I think some people would say, you know, I need to curb that, and it's not doing me very much benefits. But I would say, no, I think, you know, the world needs people who give things a go without regard for the complexities of what is going to unfold.
That's so inspiring. I love it. Okay, but how do we define unrealistic? And does that trait, does it serve you? Or is it a blessing or a curse, or in between?
That's a great question. I would say it's a blessing and a curse, because it's a blessing because I will give things a go where other people maybe wouldn't give it a go. But it's a curse because things do take a lot longer and I overcommit my diary and sometimes overpromise a little bit, which can, you know, it's not obviously great to do that. So yeah, I think it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's a trait that would, in some circumstances, be the most useful thing ever. Just to have the ability to I don't know, is it not be inhibited by things? Is that what we're getting at here?
Yeah, I had this conversation years ago at a dinner party, and I was talking about just the concept of like having an idea and then just visualizing like how things go over time. And I was talking to a few people, and I said, have an idea, and I can see that it leads to this, and it leads to that, and it leads to that, and it leads to that. And like, wow, yes, I can see the amazing outcomes this can lead to. And the other people around the dinner table, or one or two of them, said, their experience was actually quite the opposite. They have an idea, and then they see a hurdle, and then another hurdle, and one of those hurdles will just be too big for them to comprehend, and they'll be like, no, this idea is never going to work. And like that was their thought process. And I guess I just never known that like other people think like that. I mean, this was years ago, and that was a real eye-opening moment for me. Like, wow, okay, having a certain imagination without the hurdles is such a helpful way to think. And I guess I maybe naturally do that anyway and feel blessed that I do. And I didn't realize that everyone didn't do that. So yeah, that was quite a moment for me in my life.
And how can I do it? How can I get to that where I'm looking at not the hurdles, but rather the potential or the opportunity? Have you got any advice for someone who wanted to think like that but doesn't?
I would say the advice that I sometimes give to some people is make something physical that you can show yourself, that is a kind of prompt to think about the end point, the successful end point. So someone came to me the other day with asking for advice because she knew that I have written books. And my advice, she was writing a book, and my advice was to go into Canva, make sure you can think of a title for your book, a subtitle for your book, create a cover for the book in Canva. Even if you haven't written, she was struggling with actually writing it. Even if you haven't written it, doesn't matter. Do the cover and then have it somewhere, preferably print it out and wrap it around a real book. So you've got this kind of mock-up of your real book in front of you. And I think that really helps visualize something further down the road. You can almost feel that, like, oh my God, this is my book in my hand, rather than it being this abstract thing way in the future with loads of hurdles in the way. So I think having something physical that you can visualize is really helpful.
Damn, that's inspiring. I can imagine a lot of people thinking, damn, I wish I had this ability. I love it. We're talking about these 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about the publishing company. I want to drill into that a little bit more. I'm conscious that 15 years is a very long time. So I'm sure there's a lot there. But my question is, was it the lifestyle or the desire for the lifestyle that led you down the business path? Or was it the business path that somehow enabled the lifestyle and you just ended up in it?
The lifestyle of like the nomad.
Yeah, you ended up on a boat living for 3 years, you know? It's like, I don't know, do people just wake up in the morning and think, oh, I want to live on a boat for 3 years? How does it go?
So I guess I was really motivated to start the publishing company is purely the fact that a business partner who's a friend of mine came to me with the idea for this book, and I thought it was a really great idea. And what my passion is I love creativity. I love making stuff. I love the idea that one moment something doesn't exist, and then with some imagination and a bit of effort, it then does exist. And I just love that process in many capacities. many, many capacities. So that was my motivation for starting the business. I just love the idea that we could make something and it could also help a lot of people. And it was just the perfect combination. So that was the motivation for the business. In terms of how it links to being a nomad, living on a boat, that was more down to COVID.
So interesting.
COVID happened. I'd been living in London for 20 years. COVID happened. And I could sense like a few days before the first lockdown was announced. So nobody knew that there was going to be a lockdown, but I could sense something was just extra weird was going to happen. So I said to my partner and Zoe, actually, who I wasn't with at the time, I said, guys, let's leave London. Let's hire a cottage and
let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. So like 2 days before lockdown, we left London to Sussex and hired a cottage on a 50-acre farm for 2 weeks. And of course, that 2 weeks turned into 4 months on the farm because no one could move anywhere. So that really led the exit from London. And then various things happened, and we ended up getting the boats and living that boaty nomadic lifestyle from that point onwards. So it was really like a COVID switcheroo.
I can imagine for a lot of people, they would have had a similar experience where they noticed that during COVID, the world was changing a little bit. And, everybody responded differently. You guys moved to, the rural countryside. And then you thought, let's get a boat. How was the working at that time? Like, was it passive income that was coming in from the publishing company, or were you actively working?
During lockdown, I worked super hard on the publishing, like built a new website, started a YouTube channel, which ended up having lots of great videos on that. So I worked really hard during lockdown. And then when I moved onto the boat, it's definitely a different lifestyle. I mean, you've got to really spend time and effort just living and surviving. Nothing on the boat is plumbed in. So you got a water tank, you got a diesel tank, you got your batteries to charge, and you've got your gas canisters, and nothing's plumbed in, and your toilet's not plumbed in either. So anything like that, you need to really work at to just survive. So the pace of life is quite a lot slower, and productivity-wise, I would say it's not conducive to really just like getting a lot done. Specifically, the energy and effort it takes to start a new business. If one was starting a new business, boating life is probably not conducive to like starting a new business or working, really hard and getting lots done.
Interesting. And then throughout so that's like, I imagine the first stages of the boating experience. Throughout that, did you get itchy feet, or were you just happy or comfortable with the lifestyle, this new weird lifestyle that you ended up in? Or were you like, I want to go back into the business, I want to go back to London, what was the feeling?
I think didn't ever have the feeling about going back to London. I did probably after a couple of years on the boat, which was a super exciting adventure, loads of exploration, loads of nature, meeting lots of great people on the canals and the river. It's all really great. But I think after a couple of years, I did miss just the ease of like living in a house. So I think
running water, not plugging in your toilet, plugging out your toilet, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. I guess at that point, we started going to the co-livings in the wintertime, and that offered a bit more stability and a bit more of those luxuries like running water. So that was like a welcomed a bit more back to normal, and being in a community setting as well, which was really nourishing.
Interesting. Okay. So super interesting, and interesting is the wrong word. I would say inspiring. There's this whole arc here of like the business, and then there's this whole arc of the location independent lifestyle, living on a boat. But now we're talking about something interesting. Now we're talking about co-livings, we're talking about community. Now, I mean, for me at least, co-livings and digital nomadism kind of go hand in hand and kind of don't. There's a funky relationship between them. And there's some digital nomads out there that have been digital nomads for a long time, and then they were like, I want to solve this, community problem. I want to open a co-living. Do you feel like that's you, like the person who was very independent, location independent, and now they're looking at settling down? Or was there always that undertone there and you're looking at more forming a community? What's this whole idea? And for the record, for the listeners, you're opening a co-living.
Yeah.
In like 2 months.
Yeah.
Froomies. Okay, wait. So before you answer the question, what's Froomies?
So Froomies is a new co-living community down in Cornwall in the UK. My partner Zoe and I, we bought a 80-acre farm. So it's quite a big farm, and it has 8 holiday cottages and a big farmhouse, as well as like a swimming pool and a hot tub and space to make yoga spaces. And it's a really, really super nice property in a great location in Cornwall. And we're running it predominantly as a co-living, and we're going to have a couple of holiday cottages there as well. But we get the keys at the end of January and it opens on Valentine's Day. So
exciting. Valentine's Day 2026.
Fall in love with Froomies.
Fall in love with Froomies. Damn, I'm very excited to see how this project goes. What's a co-living by your definition?
What's a co-living? So for me, I can see like quite a distinctive comparison, or I guess for me, I can see that there's co-living and co-housing, and both of those things are like prominent in my mindset. So co-living are people living together, sharing spaces, sharing experiences, but for temporary stays. So if there were people like living there full time, to me, that's not necessarily co-living.
Understood.
And generally, when co-living, people's like accommodations are a bit smaller because they don't have like all of their stuff in the world with them. They're only there for a temporary amount of time. So it's like shorter stays, slightly smaller accommodation spaces, but the community experience. And then co-housing is for people who are like live there permanently. It's their primary residential address. The accommodation will be bigger because they've got more staff. And also generally co-housing, people will have more say in how the community is run because it's their primary residence. So the kind of like governance structure is generally a bit different with co-housing than it is in co-living. So those are the two types of communities that we're eventually going to have at Froomies. And I personally think that having a combination of both of those is like really like the sweet spot, because you have some co-housing people who are there all the time and they form like the foundation of the community, some stability and kind of help running the place in a like really stable way. And then you have the kind of fresh energy of co-livers who come and stay for a short amount of time, like 2 or 3 months at a time. So that helps it not be a stagnant community that might happen if it was just co-housing. So the co-housing offers the stability, the co-living offers the fresh energy, and I think fresh blood. And I think that's a great combination. So,
and is that what you're aiming for?
That's what we're aiming for. So at Froomies, we're going to start off with co-living because it's like less commitment for everyone. We can just see how it goes. But then eventually we'll have some proper permanent residential accommodations there as well. There's some big barns that will probably be able to convert into some really nice houses and flats. So
Interesting.
but that's like a 5+ year phase to the project.
Nice. Okay, I like it. Okay, so spinning back to the first question. So most digital nomads, they go and they think, okay, I've been doing this for a long time. I want to settle down, and they buy a co-living or they settle down somewhere. They do whatever. But I'm wondering if you fall in that category, or you define yourself in that category, or whether you're in a different category and you're like, oh, this is an awesome concept. I want to enjoy the benefits of this community life. Or what's the idea here behind it?
So rewinding even a bit further, so I went to a boarding school in the UK, in the north of England, between the ages of like 10 and 18. Mm-hmm. So I think for a big part of my like childhood, I was used to this setting. And when boarding school, like you work with your friends, you eat with your friends, you're sleeping in dorms and stuff with your friends, you're socializing with your friends, you're doing sport with your friends, you're with them all of the time. And it is co-living. Like boarding school is definitely like co-living for kids, right? So between 10 and 18, I was used to this. Some people find boarding school super traumatic. And some people really thrive in boarding school. And I'm very fortunate that I was the type of person who thrived in boarding school. So I think there's something within me that just loves having people around all the time. I mean, I still appreciate quiet time to myself, and away from everyone. But I just think generally having people around all the time is like really suits me. The other thing is I'm not amazing at like replying to people's texts and emails and reaching out to people. So by default, if I'm living on my own or just with my partner, I do struggle with forming and maintaining friendships, even though like I feel like I'm pretty social, I'm pretty nice to be, fun to be with. Like I've got all of those skills, but just like literally keeping in touch with people has always been a struggle. So I think living in a community or co-living setting, it suits me well because I don't have to make loads of effort to like have social connections because people are just there all the time. So I think that really suits me really well. And then after going to some co-livings in the last couple of years, Zoe and I think we've really felt like we would love to set one up because we had a few properties in London and we could sell that. And we've got the means to set one up. And I think the UK and the whole planet needs more communities and more co-livings. So for us, if we have the means to do it and the will and the drive, like instead of just joining another one, we thought like, let's put another co-living on the map. And then that's how Froomies was born.
Damn, I love it. That's awesome. Okay. And where do you imagine yourself going as part of this journey? Because obviously, you come across as a successful entrepreneur and you've, done your business. And I'm sure, based on what I've heard about Froomies, it will thrive. I think there's from what I've heard, a low chance of it going to pot. So I think, it should go well. Where do you see yourself going after that? I mean, do you want to live the community life full time? You want to buy another boat? You want to travel the world? You want to go live in Southeast Asia and leave a community manager in charge? What's your plan?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, it's going to be full on into this community and getting it all set up. And I think I'm also conscious that, co-living operators, they can burn out quite easily. So building into it from the beginning that it gives Zoe and I some flexibility in not having to be there 365 days a year, and that we can work on other creative projects while we're there and not just on Froomies itself. So we'll have we'll have some support with making sure that we have some time to do other things. I've always got business ideas. I've always got business ideas, particularly in this day of AI and vibe coding. And there's so much more opportunities to realize ideas quickly and cheaply. So yeah, I think if I was just working on the community forever, I think that wouldn't really fulfill my need of like creativity. So yeah, living in the community, having our own space and working on other creative projects, and being able to go to festivals, go to Glastonbury, and still being able to explore outside of the community at the same time.
Well, now I gotta ask, AI and vibe coding.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one for a second, right? So, you didn't do an MBA.
No.
And you didn't study tech either, I assume.
No.
Okay. So what's AI and vibe coding, and how is that affecting your life, and how are you using it in Froomies, and how are we in late 2025, where we are now, already at this point where we can do vibe coding, and what do you imagine is going to come after that?
Yeah. Well, a few months ago, I had the idea to make a little guidebook for Froomies. I noticed that there's a platform called Stay Touch or something, and you can pay like $7.99 a month to have your guidebook on their platform, like your co-living or holiday cottage guidebook on their platform. And it kind of looks like an app. It's like an app experience. And I saw this and I'm like, oh, that's cool. But like the super cheapskate in me was like, I don't want to pay $7.99 a month for this. I reckon I could build one. I could build like a little mini website, like really quickly and easily. But I was also getting videos on YouTube about vibe coding. And I'm like, what's this? What's this? So I looked into it and I was like, oh, maybe I'll have a little go at vibe coding a guidebook for Froomies. And I'm assuming your audience knows what vibe coding is. But yeah, it's using AI to code an app or a website. Super simple. And I started doing it and I was amazed at how quickly and accurately it would just do what I asked it to do. And it popped up with this guidebook that was just exactly what I was looking for, exactly what I needed. And then I was like, hang on a minute. If it's that easy to create that feature, why don't I just try some other features? What about having a dinner rota feature so all of the guests could like sign up to the dinner rota really easily? And then I just built that. And then it just spiraled out of control. I was there for like a couple of weeks nonstop on the computer. I was literally waking up at 5 a.m. going, yes, I get to vibe code today. And I would run downstairs and I would be boshing out all of these features. And then, of course, the app needed an admin panel because me as an admin, I need to make sure that I can like do bookings and, look at the co-livers profiles and all that kind of thing, So I built a whole admin panel and it just spiraled out of control where the app had like 20 features and the admin panel had like 30 features and it was all working and it all looked really nice. And I just couldn't believe that it was me and ChatGPT on $20 a month with their basic plan could bosh out something that would definitely have cost over £50,000 a few years ago if I had got some app company or freelance coders to make. So it's mind-blowing.
It is absolutely insane. So my personal position on AI in 2024, 2025, and probably going into the next years, it's bringing a gun to a knife fight. Okay. You are literally, everybody else is floating around doing their stuff, who knows what, right? And you are just there, just smashing through everything.
Yeah.
What's the future? Where's it going to go?
Yeah, I think in the short term, it's pretty amazing because businesses who could do with an app, even an internal app for their staff and their management, before, they're not going to pay 50 grand for this. So it's just completely out of the question. But now there's the possibility for loads of small businesses to pay a vibe coder 2 or 3 grand to get an app that previously cost 50 grand. And now there's this whole industry of like these really great apps custom made for businesses that don't cost very much. So that's like in the short term. And also vibe coding is a new profession. People can learn how to vibe code. They don't have to learn how to code. They can learn how to vibe code, and suddenly they can get jobs for 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 grand making these apps. So there's a whole industry of like a new profession. However, that's just in the short term, because there will come a point, I think, that the AI will become so great that there won't, like that role will disappear, because you just ask it to do what you wish to do and it will do it. So it's like a new job appears as a vibe coder, and then it, or like in a year or two, will just go away again. And all stuff like that's going to happen, where things will appear and then things will die, and things will appear, things will die. And I have no idea actually where it's going.
Look, I was planning to actually finish on the last questions, but I had some more, but I think now is a good time to finish. Yello, you're super inspiring, and it was really a pleasure talking to you, man. And I wish you the best with Froomies. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you're going to rock it.
Thanks, Ibi.